to speak to an author. Her name is Josephine MACHARIA. She's written a book called, if you don't mind me saying, Your Mental Health is Important. This book. And we're talking about why your mental health is important this morning. Josephine, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Levi. Great to be here.
Yeah, you're wearing the colors of your book.
Yes, it was very intentional. So at everywhere I go, I bring a little bit of sunshine into the room because unfortunately, mental health is still seen as a taboo topic and people shy away from it. Yet it's something we're all dealing with and nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed of. So I'm all about, let's make this an everyday conversation because it's affecting us every day. It doesn't choose when to show up. It's something we have to grapple with. You know, this morning I was listening to the radio on my way in and I listened to
a news item about the government's chief doctor, Patrick Amoth.
Okay.
And he said that, you know, in this country, we have 1,500 mental health officers.
Wow.
1,500. In a population of close to 50 now.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And he was saying it's a conversation we need to have that is serious. And I was thinking, it's not a conversation that we need to have. It's a conversation that's past, you know, it's a crisis.
It is. It's actually a national crisis. You know, it's actually I like calling it the shadow pandemic that no one is talking about. So we are, yes, granted, COVID came and shook our lives, but the one thing we don't understand and we've not grasped is the impact of that on people mentally. Before COVID happened in 2019, June 1st, in his Madaraka Day speech in Narok, President Uhuru Kenyatta declared mental health a national epidemic because of the rising cases of depression, anxiety, suicide, and femicide. And that was pre-COVID. Now, post-COVID, we are having heightened cases. So people have been in places where we've never been able to talk about it. Now it's affecting our everyday work, and yet there are not enough doctors. What needs to happen is, instead of mental health being offered as a, a specialized service, it needs to start at the primary health level. There are too many people who go to hospitals today. You have all these symptoms, but it's nothing physical. It's actually psychological.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Happened to me.
It did, right?
Yeah. Some years back, I had a false heart attack.
What?
Yeah. Oh, this has happened to me. You know, and I see people talk about it, and I know it completely. Last week, I had lunch with a friend who had, suffered from a mental disorder.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he ended up at Mathare, but he's okay now.
Oh, okay, good.
And he has done a podcast. He was taking me through, his story about how he ended up in Mathare. And it's just, it's so easy.
Thank you. To
be that guy.
Thank you. I think that's what people don't understand, that guy going to Mathare or that guy going to therapy, I'm actually that guy. It's no longer that, those people. It's also no longer an issue with creatives, because there was a time guys were there like, oh, creatives are the
artists,
ones.
musicians.
Yeah, musicians, artists. It's no longer an adolescent thing. It's no longer, oh, we get it because you got divorced, or we know why you're feeling that way. It can happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate. So who are we to discriminate? I think for me, what we need to realize is first remove the stigma from mental health. It's amazing. Levi, today, if I meet you, you won't tell me, and let's say ask you how you feeling, you say I've been a bit unwell, and ask you, sorry, what's wrong? You won't tell me I had a malaria disorder. Or I had a cold. Even the terminologies we use make someone feel like, oh my goodness, how are you surviving and you don't have limbs? How are you breathing and you're, no. I think we need to first remove the stigma and make it okay for people to be honest with their answers. Because every day we're interacting with people, but we've been cultured as a society that when I ask you, how are you? Immediately you say, I'm fine. And people stop there. Yet I can see through your eyes, I can see you're moving a bit slowly, I can see your countenance has changed, but we've not given people permission to voice what they're dealing with. If we start with that simple exercise, where every time I'm allowing someone to just open up, at times before it doesn't need to get to me going to MACHARIA or being on medication. Maybe all I need is just to talk to someone, because talking therapy is important, and I'll be okay. But we've not created that as a society. If anything, we shun people and make them feel like, shame on you, how dare you share that? So it's an oxymoron, because on the one hand, we say, please share, don't keep things to yourself. Share, don't suffer in silence.
Well, yeah, we don't really want to listen.
We really don't want to listen.
And we don't have the time to.
Yes, and then when I share, now you vilify me and say, I'm too needy, I'm looking for attention. Please pick up, choose a battle.
Or we take it as a fodder for stories.
Thank you.
You know.
Thank you.
Tell me something.
Yes.
Why did you feel you needed to write a book?
That's a very good question. I felt, to your point, what you are saying and what the news article you listened to, a lot of people are in dire straits and not okay, and there's not enough material out there. And when you find material, maybe it doesn't relate, or maybe it's skewed towards being material that's for psychology students. So it tends to not be relatable. People needed something where...
Heavy on grammar and...
Thank you. And terminologies.
Yes.
All I want to know, Levi, is I woke up and I'm feeling, meh, I'm not okay. Why am I feeling like this? That's all I want to know. So I felt there was a need to bring a book that gets you on the journey, that begins showing you, these are some of the things you may be dealing with. This is how mental health looks like, because a lot of people don't know. And then these are some of the things you can do. So that then once you go through this book, you will then be in a better position to know, okay, now I know that I need therapy, or now I'm okay. Just this is a foundation and a toolkit and a workbook, because in the middle, one of the things I love are the yellow pages, because a lot of times you feel like people are always giving you advice, but no one is giving you tangible tools on how to cope. So that's what this book is, to help you cope, to help you make sense of what it is you're going through, and to also help you understand your history, because your past is affecting a lot of the things that you're dealing with today.
Yeah, let me ask you, Josephine, because you know we are Africans.
Yes.
And there's those perceptions we have because of our upbringing. One of them being that, you know, the moment we talk about mental issues, hiyo ni mambo ya wazungu.
Yes.
You know?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it's for softies. They say, oh, I was raised in this way, and every African child, we know we were beaten, we were told things, and we turned out okay.
Yes.
People say that, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes. Hatukukufa tuko.
Yeah, tuko.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's one thing. The second thing is you spoke about stigma, and the stigma especially of me having a mental condition, not knowing about it. Yeah. And then I go, perhaps something happens, an incident where something false happens. I end up at a doctor and I'm diagnosed and I'm sent to, you know, consultant psychologist.
Yes.
And now I realized that, you know, I do have a mental issue. Now, the conversation with my loved ones, my parents, you know, the people around me, that conversation you said, I think one of the things you say here is we need to have those unashamed conversations.
Yes.
How do we start that?
That's a brilliant question, Levi. I think just to circle back to something you said, for the first time in history, we have 4 generations that have met each other, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's in church, whether it's in social settings. So you have baby boomers, Gen X, millennials, and the infamous Gen Z. And what is then happening is that because, like you said, all these generations were cultured differently, each person is coming with a sense of entitlement, a sense of the way we were raised is the right way. So the older generations, baby boomers and Gen X, are the ones you are alluding to. You are to be seen and not heard. Hard work was esteemed. In fact, your family was judged based on your performance. How well did you do in school? Yeah. That's how we rate you. It was also the generation that was
and whether you got pregnant or not.
Not, exactly, and shamed the whole family. It was also the generation that hid people who had any form of mental condition or disorder, because how do we talk about that? And yet the whole community knew, nile familia iko to, you know, krekre, someone who's not okay. Then come to the generation now, millennials and Gen Z.
You know, for how long I was told, alifuta banki.
Are you serious? But why? because that was seen more palatable.
Maybe it was to stop us from kuvuta bangi.
Exactly.
Which for me it did because it petrified me.
That's a thing.
You know.
And it made you feel like you'll become nothing in society.
Yes.
No one will hire you. And that fear worked. But now we have a generation that is openly talking about mental health. So you can imagine the clash where, Levi, I'm coming to work, you're wondering, where is my team? And someone is sending you a message, tell you I had an anxiety attack. You're like, are you kidding me? We used to crawl to work even when we were sick and half dead.
Yeah.
What is anxiety? I know people who are being given sick leave, and employers are saying, 3 weeks for what? As long as I can't see this disease, you're lazy, you're fired. So to answer your point, I think there's a place where people are not talking about it because there's no understanding. So in the book, there's a place where I break down some of the things you can start looking out for. Is this someone who used to be active, they are now no longer active? How is their disposition? And then creating a space where let's all educate ourselves. Because the more we don't know, the more we hide, the more we don't talk about it. Think about how AIDS was when it first came out. No one talked about it. We've seen great progress. Why? Because now a lot of education was given. We need to bring it and make it in a way that it's everyday conversation. Can we begin with our family line? In our family, are there cases of mental illness? So if that gene, it's genetic in our family, let's begin finding out how did it affect grandpa? How is it affecting our parents? How is it now affecting you as a father? And are you seeing it now in a child that's coming? So if it's in your family, track it. Don't hide it away and say it won't affect. It's there. And doesn't mean it's a death sentence. Then there are others, it's brought about because of a situation. Can we look, was it a season where you are in an environment, or is it because of medication? It's a side effect that's bringing things like depression, anxiety. So I think it's to allow people and show people that, one, it doesn't have to be a hush-hush conversation, and two, there are ways to go about it without it being so taboo. Because Levi, imagine having a family gathering and you guys having a get-together and you're there like, has anyone here been depressed of late? Even I wouldn't own up. So there's a way to make it every day, and that's what this book allows you to do. It gives you the lingo and the words to use. Yes.
Sort of like a toolkit, because you say...
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a toolkit, it gives you the language, and it also shows you, now that you've discovered this is what it is, how do we deal with a parent who we've seen has dementia? How do we deal with someone who is depressed? How do we deal with someone who you realize, wow, actually our family, we were raised by narcissistic parents. How do we deal with that? Because if we don't deal with it, I've now become a narcissistic wife or a narcissistic husband, and it's affecting the next generation. So this book, it's almost like, imagine someone going for open heart surgery, and when you're done, the doctor gives you Panadol and tells you, go home, you're okay. Some of these conversations are so heavy that it now ensures that as we begin going down that road, it's going to get uncomfortable, because we'll realize each person has their own healing. Each person interprets things that have happened in their life in a different way, which is then causing all these other things. So it's an onion approach. You open up, and so the yellow pages allows you to have that conversation. Are we sitting as a family, as a couple, and going through some of these questions, which will then allow you to begin to understand what are we really dealing with here.
Let me ask you, when you break it down to all this, the different generations, the way we were raised up, our cultural tendencies, and even in our homes, that's different.
Yes.
Yeah? And we have homes where children are at the table and they're speaking to their parents, and how was your day, and you had a wonderful time. And we've got homes where, dad checks in and everyone leaves the room.
Precisely.
And some people, I want to ask you, like, honestly speaking, how much of your childhood upbringing is a factor in your mental health?
Ooh, powerful
Just
question, Levi. I don't have tangible stats to back this up, but I dare say 80%. 80%. Because what you saw is what you knew to be right. So in your family, if your dad checked in and you disappeared, that's your normal. So you know that that's how fathers are, and that's a kind of power and authority they carry, where you're to be seen and not heard. If you are raised in a family where open conversation was encouraged, you are encouraged to speak your mind and be who you are, that then defines your world until someone comes and exposes you to something different. We have a lot of people today who are adults by virtue of their age, ID, but they're actually adult toddlers because they were never taught how to express their emotions. They were never taught how to deal with anger, with hurt, we are an African culture. Like, what was worry? What do you mean you're sad? How can you be sad and you're not paying school fees? So our emotions, we were not taught how to express emotions. So you have a lot of quote unquote disabled people, psychological, depressed about. My grandmother always, bless her soul, she always used to be there like, Margaret, you're not paying school fees. Why are you sad? I'm there like, wow. So now I don't have a right to be sad.
It minimizes your issue.
It does. So it's a huge component. And what is happening now is people have gotten to a place where they are so woke, where they realize, I can't go on like this. I need to go back and begin unpacking. You and I can, quote unquote, laugh about some of the things and the beat down we got growing up. But when you think about it, it's actually not funny.
Do you think that makes us softies? Because we are branded, you know.
No.
Soft. Crybabies. Always complaining, running for depression as a, as a toolkit,
No. I think if anything, now is when we are being brave, because it takes courage, actually, not weakness. It takes courage to come out and say, I'm not okay. I'm depressed and I'm going to deal with this. So society has made us look at it as a sign of weakness, but it's actually a sign of courage when you say, funny, when your car is broken and you take it for servicing, is that car weak?
No, it's just having a bad moment.
Exactly, and it needs servicing and it will be okay.
It will be okay, yeah.
Why do we then treat our bodies when we need servicing? Everyone will run and do annual health check. Why don't we stop and do the same for our mind? Yet our mind is the heart and everything. Levi, if I showed up today for this interview having not showered with those, a t-shirt, you'd be there like, are you okay? Yet we are constantly showing up like that mentally. Disheveled, unkempt, looking tattered and haggard. We need to reframe and to change the narrative we were told that because people can't see your mind, deal na shida zako peke yako.
Yeah. I want to take a break on that note, because when we come back, one of the first things I want to ask you is, what boxes would I be checking to show that there's something I need to attend to mentally? You can take us through some signs and symptoms.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay.
We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away. This is 59 Minutes.